everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Fonda.
And my name is Alison.
Today, Alison's going to be talking about Medusa.
Woo!
Woo! So, for anyone who doesn't know, Medusa is a mythological character, creature, being from Greece, and also shows up in Rome and Roman stuff and stories. And she has a vast history that we're going to do our best to dive in.
Yes. She has also, one of the biggest reasons I want to talk about her, she has become a icon for feminist rage in the modern day. And Medusa as a character has kind of been reclaimed by feminists because she kind of got the shit end of the stick of the story. And so that's what we're going to dive into first.
Okay.
Is her story. For all of you who do not know, there have been plenty of versions of Medusa's story, different ways that Perseus killed her, all of this different stuff. But kind of standard in every story is the fact that Medusa is a scary woman with snakes for hair who turns people to stone. How she got that way, how she is killed, all of those things all differ depending on what story you're reading, or poem, or history, or anything. Going back to kind of the very beginning, this information is based mostly on the Theogony tale and the Metamorphose.
Written by...
Theogony is by Hesiod, and Metamorphoses was written by Ovid in 8 AD, and the latter was written in the 8th century BC.
Okay.
Yeah, getting historical on everybody.
Getting some old ones.
Yeah, some ancient poetry. So, Medusa is one of 3 monstrous sisters known as Gorgons, the other 2 being Stheno and Uriel.
I hope we're saying all these names right.
I did look them up. There are some slight differing
Phonetic
pronunciations, but I think that kind of comes from the difference between Greek and Roman, because a lot of her story comes from those 2 different cultures, so we'll get there.
Also, English isn't always the best at
Yes. So in the Theogony tale, Medusa was always a monster. But it is in Metamorphoses where she gets the story of becoming a monster.
Okay.
But in both, she does have these 2 sisters. Both of the sisters are monsters. One, she's not.
Are they sisters in the sense of, like, found sisterhood or sisterhood by blood?
Nope. They were children of Phorcys and Ceto.
Oh!
Or Keto.
Oh, so they were always...
Gorgons. But she was the only one that was mortal.
Got it. Okay.
And so, in one tale, she was always monstrous looking.
Yeah.
But Gorgons do not necessarily have the snake hair and the power to turn people to stone.
Okay.
But they were from this family of sister Gorgons.
Gotcha.
And she was the only mortal. The rest can't be killed, according to mythology.
According to mythos.
The true intention or moral behind her story is something that has changed over the years, which I find fascinating. Because really, reading text and reading poems, it's so hard to narrow down the actual feeling behind them, because you cannot take into account what was actually going on in ancient times, because we don't have a time machine. Yep. And so, although reading the text, the story might have come off as one way, if you look at it from a different perspective, it might come off as another. Yeah. And so, it's all very kind of fluid and amorphous what her story actually might have meant.
Especially because a lot of tales were oral.
Yes.
Spoken, not written at periods of time.
Exactly. And we also see it a lot more now because we are having a more diverse group of people studying history. And so having diversity in those who are looking at history, you will get a diversity in the understanding of history, because they come at it with different views and different interpretations of old stories. Medusa specifically has turned from just a monster into an ancient feminist icon whose image is used as a form of protection in many pieces of artwork, statues, architecture. Like, it's used all over the place.
In specific regions of the world, or do you mean by all over the places in, like...
So all over the place, as in all over the place in Greece and Rome, kind of thing. So if you look at their sort of ancient pottery, their ancient buildings, many buildings will have heads of Medusa on the corners, kind of watching over rooms. She is used in a way that implies that she is protection, not terror, which is kind of a weird idea that we have because we think of her as a monster, but why would you want a monster watching over your house?
Yeah.
So, fun little interpretations. When I was young, I went through a Greek mythology phase, as I feel many.
Oh, big, quick high five. Just quick. Yeah. 100%. I don't know about you, but totally loved and read all the Percy Jackson books.
Yes. And this is one of those things that might be like a young white girl thing that just for some reason we get hyper focused on Greek mythology, but I know a lot of white girls who got really into Greek mythology.
It's really cool. There's something about not only the mythos and the tales, there's a lot of like female goddesses, deities, creatures, stories. We are like, oh my god, that is so cool.
It's so cool.
Like, I don't know, there's something about it that I think is a lot more enjoyable than average history.
Yes. Yeah.
Or, you know, in Canada we have social studies, and a lot of it is can be very narrow-minded, and sometimes you only have like a brief, maybe month-long course where you're learning about other cultures, and when fucking Greece comes up and they're like, yeah, there's these gods, and one's called Zeus and he controls lightning in the skies, and one's named Poseidon, and then there's Hades, and then there's this goddess who controls the seasons, and you're just like, what? How is this? Why don't we have anything interesting like this to talk about in in other parts, and can't we dive into it more and learn about this cool culture and group? So totally agree. I think a lot of people get intrigued by mythologies.
I was actually very fortunate because in my elementary school, we did a whole section on the stories and history of indigenous beliefs and indigenous kind of myths and stories, which was, I think, really cool too. So we got to learn kind of their versions of the gods.
Yeah.
And we got to learn about their stories about how the seasons change and all of that stuff, which I found really, really cool. It wasn't a very long section because I think our teacher just stuffed it in there.
Yeah.
It was actually weirdly enough in our art class.
Oh.
Because we had an entire section on indigenous art. And while we were doing the art, she was telling us all these stories. Oh. So it was really cool. And we got to learn a lot about it that way. So I actually also had an indigenous mythology phase too, which was fun. I learned a lot about that. But there's just something so intriguing, I think, to younger kids learning about these different grand ideas and these different kind of structures and these different gods and cultures, and it's just so captivating, and so there's so much imagination put into it.
Oh, especially as a kid, when you are a person who's like, you are so imaginative and you play and you have like, oh, let's go outside, and for like 30 minutes you all pretend that you are fucking ninjas or something. Like, I remember at one point being like, I'm gonna pretend I'm a ninja and I'm gonna be sneaky and I'm gonna go do this, and then my other friend's like, well, I'm gonna pretend that I am a sea monster. And you're just like, your imagination is so unbelievably huge and massive. So when anyone gives you something that's like, what?
Yeah. It's just fun too to learn about. And then of course my whole world was shattered when I got older and I started looking into it more and having like adult content that was the actual stories, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I thought Zeus was a good guy.
Oh, naive Alison. It's okay. I always thought Zeus was a good guy too.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. And then I read the actual stories, and I'm like, you
Oh no.
are not very great at all. There's a lot of issues here.
But I also do think that these stories and these myths are designed to amplify humanity.
Yeah, that's
So,
why we have, like,
yeah.
They needed reasons to, at the time, explain a lot of things that they didn't yet know how to explain.
Exactly.
Like, people in Greece and Rome were, like, fucking, they knew how to do shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they could look at the stars and map stuff. They figured out how to, like, navigate the seas. They knew how to do time with sundials or use water to figure out, like, what fucking time of day. Like, they had a lot of great things, but they were limited.
Yes.
And so they had stories, myths, reasons to explain why the seasons change.
Exactly.
What happens when you die.
Yes. And they actually, you see it in a lot of stories, they wrote about what they know.
Yeah.
And so one of the theories on the description of Medusa, which is the graying skin and the snakes for hair and the white eyes and the horrible, like, gaping mouth, is a representation of a dead body. Because back in those times, a lot more people faced true dead, decaying bodies. Yeah. Where the tongue does a lot of times flop out of the mouth, the skin becomes pallid and gray, and so it was kind of, this theory states that it was kind of a way to face death in a way and come out alive still. That's a nicer way to look at her story.
I remember being so terrified of Medusa.
Oh yeah, same.
And, like, I still thought she was cool in a different way, but I remember being a kid being like, yeah, cut off her head, and I'm like, you know,
maybe.
What did she do wrong? I don't have context in this story about why Perseus
the answer
cut off her head. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. And I actually have the supposed answer, the kind of agreed upon answer as to why it was that her head,
agreed upon by current historians.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you a historian if you study mythology, or are you?
I have no idea. Are you an archaeologist?
You know who would know this? The wonderful ladies that are the co-hosts of Spirits.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fucking good podcast. I know they've definitely talked about Gorgons.
Yes.
They would know. You know what? Their thing is under history and education. I'm going to say, based off of the Spirits podcast, because they dive into a lot of more legends, mythology, and folklore, that I'm going to say it has to do with history.
Okay. Fair enough.
Just based off of deduction and looking at other people, and I know they fucking have a history degree and English information. You know, I trust them.
And based off of, like, because I watched a couple documentaries and a couple videos and stuff, it was always, like, historian or whatever underneath their, like, title for people who are talking about it.
Okay,
so
I just wanted to understand, because I would hate it if I called them historians and then someone emails us to properly inform us, and they'd be like, no, sorry, but they're called this, and I'd be like, fuck, I knew it,
There's so many different names, and it's so big. Like, the research on this is so big. I don't even have that many notes, but I did so much research because I just was reading other interesting, completely not pertinent information.
That's okay. Hey, maybe this will be your first short episode.
I know, right? I talk too much.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Yes.
Too much talking. Dive in.
So, here is the story. This is kind of like a very homogenized, basic-ass version of the Medusa story.
Okay.
So, Medusa is a priestess.
Okay.
And she worships Athena.
Okay.
And Athena is what is known as a virgin goddess. And so in order to worship her as a priestess, you have to take a vow of celibacy. And so that is what Medusa did.
Okay.
But she was gorgeous, and everybody loved her, and men would come to the temple to try and woo her and to try and entice her away from Athena.
She was desirable.
She was extremely desirable, and one of the biggest things that was noticed about her was her long, beautiful hair. It is described as many different colors depending on the story, but it's kind of agreed upon that it was brown.
Okay.
So this beautiful, long, curly hair that everybody that was her best feature according to everybody. And one of the people who noticed her beauty was Poseidon. And so he tried to woo her. He tried to come to Earth in his human form and tried to be like, oh, come with me, leave Athena. And it didn't work because she was loyal and dedicated. And so he, being a Greek god, decided that it didn't matter and he would have her anyways. And so he rapes Medusa in the temple, which is blasphemous to Athena. Some stories state that the reason why Athena did not protect her is because people were saying that Medusa's beauty rivaled even Athena's. And so Athena was upset by that because the gods are petty, easily angered beings in mythology, and so that is why Athena did nothing. And as punishment for essentially being desirable, Athena turns Medusa's hair to snakes, and she turns her into this monster. And so she is essentially banished to an island where she has to go and live alone because anybody she looks at will be turned to stone. I know. And this is kind of her lot in life, and we'll talk about how this can be digested later. And so she is sent to this island where she minds her own fucking business. Many people come to try and slay the beast that they've heard of that turns people to stone for the honor and the glory of being able to kill her, because it is also stated that her head will retain the powers that she has, and so it would be a good weapon. So these people are trying to go there to get the weapon that is the head of Medusa. And so she builds this field and this, like, tomb, essentially, of petrified people. No warrior can beat her.
Yeah.
And then along comes Perseus, who's...
He's a demigod.
He's a demigod.
Right?
Perseus is the son of Zeus and Danae. And his purpose for going and killing Medusa is good, because there's this king named Polydectes who wants to marry Danae. And she doesn't want to marry him. And so Perseus is trying to, like, protect his mom. But Polydectes is like, this guy's getting in my way. And so I'm going to say that everybody has to pay this tax. And because Perseus and his mother don't have a lot of money, they can't afford it. And so in order to stay in their home, he's like, well, I will go and I will get you this priceless gift of Medusa's head. So to save his mother, he's going to go and murder this monster.
Okay.
And because and then he goes on kind of an adventure to get more things to arm himself with, because nobody else has beaten her. And so he's like, well, I'm the son of Zeus, and so you should give me presents. That's basically what happens. And so he gets presents from the gods. He gets winged shoes from Hermes. He gets a reflective bronze shield from Athena. He gets Hades' cap of invisibility and a sword. And a sword from Hephaestus. And so, armed with gifts from the gods, he goes and he sneaks in to Medusa's lair, and he finds her sleeping. And so he uses the mirrored shield to sneak up on her and cut her head off while she's asleep.
Yep, I know this tale.
Yep, and from her neck bursts the unborn children between her and Poseidon. And this is how Chrysaor, the golden giant, and Pegasus, the winged horse, are born.
From her neck?
From her neck.
I knew they were born from her and Poseidon. I just didn't know her neck.
From her neck.
But Greek mythology is very interesting, because Athena was born out of Zeus's head. She just popped up because he had a headache, and she just came out fully born.
Yep.
So, they got interesting ways of describing other births, I guess.
Yes. After this, Perseus uses her head time and again for its varying powers, which are the ability to still turn people to stone. And as an example of just how powerful her head is, at one point when he is flying over the desert, drops of blood fall into the sand and venomous snakes are born from it.
Oh.
And eventually, after using it to, like, save his mom, he turns Polydectes to stone, rescues his mom. He gives the head to Athena as, like, tribute, which is kind of wrapping the whole story around. because Athena made Medusa. So that is the story. So before we get into like really looking at the different ways that the story has been perceived and can be perceived, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the first 2 times that Medusa was talked about. So these are kind of her creation. So the first one, as I mentioned, is the theogony tale.
Okay.
He didn't really expand on her too much. He basically just said, she's a Gorgon, she's mortal, she can be killed.
I heard some tales describe her differently. Like, I think at one point there's one where she has, like, fucking wings or something.
Yeah, there's one where she has wings. There's one where the bottom half of her body is a snake. There's one where instead of cutting off her head, he shows her her own reflection, so she turns to stone. There is the new movie Clash of the Titans, where they go to kill her, and he brings in, like, a whole group of people, and he cuts her head off in the middle of, like, a big battle. So there's a bunch of different versions of the tale and a bunch of different builds of her. But it all started with this line. Medusa, who suffered a woeful fate. She was mortal, but the 2 were undying and grew not old. With her lay the dark-haired one, in a soft meadow amid spring flowers. And when Perseus cut off her head, there sprang forth great cry sore, and the horse Pegasus, who is so called because he was born near the springs of the ocean. That's like it.
That's it.
That is the first story of Medusa. She's not dug into. She's just a creature who had sex with a god and got killed.
Yeah.
And then we have the Metamorphoses, which is a collection of, I think it's poems, and it's all very along the idea of change. So this is written by Ovid, and it was written in Rome, and so I switched out, as like a form of not making more confusion, the god names for the Greek names. So he is the one who kind of expanded on her story. Because all the rest of his stories were about change, he wanted to show Medusa having a major change.
Okay.
And so he is where we have her starting as a beautiful woman. He is the one who said that Poseidon actually attacked her and raped her within the temple. And over the years, due to translation issues and stuff, some say that it may have actually originally started that she consented, and so that her and Poseidon actually had a consensual tryst with one another. But translations are hard, and time is also hard. And so I find that very interesting that he was the one who kind of really gave a lot more of the benchmarks for her story was in this one. Which, now, we'll get into some metaphor.
Okay.
So a lot of different metaphors are present in the multiple different versions of Medusa's myth. The idea of powerful women being scary. So depending on the story, you can get different things out of them. So for example, we'll take in the one where she is beautiful and she does choose to have sex with Poseidon, and the 2 of them do that. Then we have a woman being punished for making a decision to have sex beyond marriage or whatever, or beyond her oath, and it's a punishment for using her body, but Poseidon is not punished. Only she is. And that is one of the biggest through lines in all of the stories, is that Medusa is always the one who's punished, and Poseidon never is. So even in the one where he's the person who raped her, she's punished for simply existing because he is too powerful. And that is...
Yeah, the gods in any mythology, they don't often choose to punish or spite each other. They might have fights, like if you think of the Titans fighting with the gods, but they always go after someone else in their hatred and their scorn and their anger for punishments.
Another, I think, newer version of the story that I really like it as like a kind of reclaiming and a rewriting of the story, because it's definitely not necessarily present in history.
Okay.
But I like the new theory that Athena...
Theory or interpretation?
Interpretation. I should say interpretation, because it's all ancient. Like, we have no true answers, as I said earlier. But this idea that Athena was not punishing her follower. She was actually giving her the ability to protect herself. Because Poseidon used his power, he used his strength to take advantage of her, and to violate her. And Athena, this was in her temple. This was like, how dare he come into her temple and do that to one of her followers? And so she gave Medusa the ability to never be hurt by a man again, because all she had to do was look at him. And she could then turn him to stone. And she could continue worshipping Athena on her own, no longer have to deal with the people who are coming and like telling her she's beautiful and like coming in her space. Like all she wanted to do was be a priestess. And the world wouldn't let her. And Poseidon wouldn't let her. And so Athena, in a way, granted the monstrosity as a gift.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that idea, giving her the power to protect herself.
Yeah, of course, I'm sure there's other people that are going to be like, well, I liked the other original version because, you know, monsters are cool and, like, evil things and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure both sides are appreciated for what they are. But I do like that interpretation because it's, like, kind of, like, in a sneaky way giving the fuck you to other people, especially Poseidon, because Athena, oh my god. Like, they might be, like, family, but, like, there's a whole thing about Athena and Poseidon having conflicts and war constantly. Like, Athens, for example, the whole city is dedicated for Athena. Yeah. The Pantheon, like, so much stuff is there, but there was this whole thing of people being like, should it be for Poseidon or should it be for Athena? And Athena got it, so, like... They on their own have things. So when Poseidon did this, he was being like, meh. And then when he did that to her follower, Athena's like, well, I am gonna give a fuck you, but I can't do it in a obvious way. So subtly, I'm gonna make it look like I'm punishing my follower. And yes, she might not be able to view another man or another person the same way because she will turn them to stone. But... she's always gonna be protected, and she, like imagine Athena, like, fucking Gorgons could be the protectors of people who don't and can't protect themselves, which is probably why they're fucking in people's rooms. Protecting. And, like, protection symbols. Yeah. I totally see that. Yeah, right? Love it. Okay.
Like, that's kind of, the idea of the protection symbol is kind of, I think, what birthed that version of the story.
Yeah, because why would a culture... put a monster that so many people would be terrified of on their homes. Like, again, like, people are terrified of it, so you want to scare people away from your home. Like, I get that. But also, like, why view it... I'm sure there's tons of other symbols or figures or creatures that could be used as protection. Yeah. But a bunch of people are choosing Medusa.
Exactly. So, and I do like the belief of more neutrality. So there is a good side and a bad side to all of these creatures and all of these stories, and she is both a protector and a monster. So she can be both. You don't have to just be one.
People, you know, people are rounded.
Exactly. So in the stories, we have her being punished for choosing to have sex. We have her being punished for being beautiful and not wanting to have sex. And we also have something that I think kind of comes in a more nowadays kind of thing. We have male privilege, which is Perseus being able to just, like, go and get all of these gifts from the gods. This female character doesn't have anything except for herself, her own powers, her own thing that she has to protect herself with. And Perseus is coming in with 4 gifts from gods. Like, he wouldn't have been able to get to her island without the winged sandals. He wouldn't have been able to sneak in without the invisible helmet. Like, all of these things, he got gifts from fucking gods just because of who his dad was.
I know, but I'm so, like, if we're looking at the interpretation of Athena giving this power to Medusa as, like, a way, like, protect yourself and to be like, this is for you as a gift, I don't fully understand then why she would give Perseus a weapon. Yeah. Like, I don't...
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I'm like, are you now, Athena, are you upset again? Did something happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the one thing that I'm, in my brain, I'm kind of like,
That's the biggest hiccup for that new version of the story.
For that new interpretation,
But yeah, like, it's all very gray. And
if somebody knows, please tell us.
Yes. So it's all, like, a very, like, gray area, which is kind of what you get when you do study history or any of these historical things in context and time and place stuff. So those are kind of the metaphors that I kind of see. And then, of course, there's obviously he sneaks up on her while she's sleeping, which has a whole bunch of modern day connotations that we do not need to get into.
I don't want to dive into it.
No. So we're not. So we're going to talk about art.
Art! Oh.
Yeah, we're going to talk about art. Fonda loves art.
I took so many art history classes. Hallelujah.
So as I mentioned, Medusa is featured in many forms of art such as pottery, architecture, metalwork, and she is usually facing straight forward, which is very rare.
Never a side view, always straight forward?
The most common version. There are some times where she's facing away. Okay. But it stands out because in most Greek art, you don't have people facing forward.
Yeah, unless they're a whole statue.
Yeah. So, like, it's very interesting that, like, even in her paintings and stuff, she is most often depicted fully facing forward, like, meeting you in the eyes, which is because that's how she turns you to stone. The first kind of interpretations of her is of being grotesque and monstrous with a gaping mouth, lolling tongue, full beard, and, like, these big, like, fanged teeth. But over the years, she has morphed into more blatantly feminine features, but still keeping the unflinching forward stare. Which I find very interesting that they've started to almost soften her to make her more, to make people want to maybe connect with her more, to maybe make her story more,
maybe to be easily more identifiable. To be identified with. I remember one that it was in one of our art history classes when we were going over the Greek and Roman period. Early depictions of Medusa. She was depicted as really ugly.
Yes.
As Medusa.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Horrifying.
In some of them, she has very, like, grotesque features. And I remember one, it's specifically titled The Head of Medusa. And I double-checked. It came out in the second half of the 2nd century. I will not be able to pronounce this. I know I can't. I couldn't in my 4 years of art history teaching. I can't now. But Tepidarium of Darzmela House at the Archaeological Museum of Sousse. I can't say it. But there's like a mural art using little tiny tiles of Medusa. I have it up here just because I wanted to double check it. I'm going to show Alison.
Ah, yes, I've seen that one.
Yeah, but like that is not a pretty depiction of Medusa. And again, she's supposed to be depicted as something scary.
Yeah.
But her depiction has changed. And tons of people nowadays that draw artwork, interpretations, stories of Medusa, everyone's interpretation is being different.
Yes, exactly. And I think that kind of comes in hand with this next statement. It's not exactly a quote, but it was half-assed pulled from a bunch of different things. I have a ton of links that Fonda is going to post at the end of the episode, giving you all of my sources. So all of my sources will be down there, but this kind of comes from multiple other papers that I kind of just blended other things together. Many hybrid monsters in ancient Greek myth are in fact female, and this is seen by some as a way to demonize women in a male-centered society. It can be considered as a very early version of the femme fatale trope with the conflicting idea of beauty and danger, which I think is really cool, that she did morph into, well, she's beautiful, but she's dangerous, like...
Yeah. Yeah, her eyes are piercing and she has the body of a very beautiful person.
Yes, and the kind of, the basic idea of she is looking you straight in the eye. She is not backing down. Mm-hmm. She is not averting her gaze. She is not being demure. She is not being fucking
She is holding
proper.
Herself.
Yeah, she's standing up for herself. She is who she is, and that's really cool.
You know who I think would be a good Medusa? Charlize Theron. She is an actress who I think does a good job of holding herself physically in like, I am a lady, but I'm going to hold myself and walk with she does a good job when she plays characters of...
She does.
I don't know how to describe it. I just there's that one famous gif of someone's like, how did you walk like what was the movie? It had to do with like Snow White. She played...
Oh, Snow White and the Huntsman?
Yeah.
She played the evil queen, I think.
Yes, it was in Snow White and the Huntsman. She did indeed play the queen called Ravenna.
Sure.
Just double checking. But there's like a famous, I remember it was going around like Tumblr, early days Tumblr for a long time. And she's just like, when I walk, I put my shoulders back, my arms slowly go down, and I just think murder. And I'm just like...
She's amazing.
Yeah, anyways.
Another really cool thing, though, is that I think that talking about the way that she carries herself really leads into the next thing, which is... It's kind of been almost rediscovered again, but in 2008, a sculptor named Luciano Garbati reimagined Medusa.
Okay.
He had grown up in Italy near where the Perseus with the head of Medusa statue is, and it astonished him. He had one question. What would it look like? Her victory, not his.
Oh, I've seen this! Yes! I want to post this image. It'll go up. It's amazing. So fucking good. Yeah.
And he's just like, how should that sculpture look? It's that one.
I fucking love it. Oh my god. It's
amazing. It is fucking it is a stunning sculpture. I think he nailed it, in my opinion. The statue is absolutely stunning. This is another quote from him. I was thinking of Perseus. This man with all his gadgets going there and having this victory. This difference between a masculine victory and a feminine one. That was the central to my work. The representations of Perseus, he's always showing the fact that he won. Showing the head. If you look at my Medusa, she's determined. She had to do what she did because she was defending herself. It's quite a tragic moment.
Yeah, she's not showing off the head. Like, I mean, the head is present in the image, as you will see, because we're going to share it. But instead of doing, like, the Simba thing in The Lion King of holding it up straight near towards the sun, being like, gods, I did it, or being like, everyone here, look around, like, it's down, holding it below her waist. She's not really acknowledging it.
Yeah. She's determined. She did what she had to do, and she's not proud of it. She's not happy that she decapitated him, but he was going to kill her. It was her or him. And it's a beautiful statue, and he did such an amazing job. This statue is actually one of the many things that feminists have kind of latched onto and been like, look at the difference between a male victory and a female victory.
Mm-hmm. From a story. That so many people interpret or have used in so many things.
She is arguably one of the most well-known and recognizable characters of Greek myth, especially in regards to pop culture. Her likeness has been used in all different forms of media, and powerful women have been likened to her throughout the years, as if that's some kind of insult. Most recently, and notably, a caricature of a Perseus Trump holding a Medusa Clinton head was all over the internet, in a couple magazines, those kinds of things. Other notable women that have been compared to Medusa include Condoleezza Rice, Madonna, Oprah, and we can't forget about our historical female troublemakers like Marie Antoinette.
Oh!
So the referencing, like the assumed insult of calling women Medusas goes back hundreds of years. Almost like it started way back when Medusa became a myth, and they've just been using it as an insult ever since.
Yeah.
Which I think is great that we're kind of like reclaiming it. In her 1975 manifesto, The Laugh of Medusa, the feminist theorist Hélène Sioux asserts that man created the monstrous legacy of Medusa through fear of female desire. If, she argued, they dared to look at the Medusa straight on, they would see that she is not deadly. She is beautiful and she is laughing. By documenting their experiences, Sioux wrote, "Women can deconstruct the sexist biases that portray the female body as a threat. After centuries of silence, conversations about rape culture began to restore Medusa's voice." She also argues that men's retelling of the narrative turned Medusa into a monster because they feared female desire. The Laugh of the Medusa is largely a call to arms urging women to reclaim their identity through writing as she rejects the patriarchal society of Western culture. Which I think is a great way to take her story, which is, it was just accepted that this woman who had been raped and turned into a monster, it's fine to kill her, and it doesn't matter. And women are reclaiming that, saying her story does matter, though. Her story represents that, and embracing who you are, whether somebody else looks at you and sees a monster, you can break that down, because Medusa doesn't have to be a monster. Her story doesn't have to be tragic. You can look at it from other sides and other points of view, and you can rewrite it, and you can do whatever you want, and you can take the metaphors, and you can develop your own ideas about it, and you can have her be exactly what she is, which is an icon of female rage. She is a woman who fights back and protects and is so awesome.
I'm having feelings.
I know, right? It's actually a really good little manifesto. It's not very long. You can find it for free online. I actually read the whole thing, and it is very interesting because this Helene Siu woman, she talks about the importance of women beginning to write, of speaking of your experiences, because if you don't write down those experiences, if you don't share them, if you don't talk about them, then we cannot learn from them, and we cannot realize that we are not alone. And it's actually really nice. I can't remember the exact way that she worded it, but at the beginning she said that this was for anybody who essentially is fighting back against the man. So she kind of at the beginning said this is for whoever. It's not just for women. It's for anybody who's different, who wants their stories to be told, who wants to be heard and be seen, and take hold of your own power, sexually and verbally and physically. Fuck it. Take hold of all your power.
Have agency.
So, as you can tell, there are so many different reasons why I like this character, but it really comes down to me liking the different ways that she can be perceived, the different things that you can take from her story, and the different ways that you can use her as a metaphor for different things in the world. And she fully embodies so much of those things that women are expected to do, which is that whole, you have to be the virgin whore, you have to be curvy, but you have to be skinny, but you have to be kind, but you have to be outgoing, like, you have to speak up for yourself, but you also can't speak up to certain people, and like the pressures and the pull on two completely opposite ends of the spectrum that are expected is insurmountable, and she represents that as one character. She is a monster, and she is a beauty. She is danger and like desire all at once. And
you have a heart boner right now.
I do. I have such a heart boner. And she's just so fascinating. And seriously, the amount of fucking feminist manifestos and theories and papers I read is obscene. Like, insane. If you're interested in it at all, I suggest to go do that. If you want to do something that's kind of weirdly fun, search any kind of high-profile woman with the word Medusa next to it, and almost always there is, like, a fucking photoshopped version of that woman as Medusa.
Oh.
Like, it's ridiculous.
It's like a weird...
It's, like, it's upsetting but fun at the same time. Like, it's one of those weird dichotomies that you're just like, well, like, people are shitty, but also, like, I want to be photoshopped like Medusa. Another good quote that I found is from a Vice article written by Christabel Hastings, and it begins, "What's clear from the changing faces of Medusa is that there is no universal truth to her myth. Beautiful victim, monstrous villain, powerful deity, she's all of those things and more besides. Perhaps it's that mercurial nature that makes her an endless source of fascination. She is, in a sense, a site for our collective projections of both fear and desire, simultaneously a symbol of women's rage and a figure sexualized by the very patriarchal forces she is seeking vengeance against." the perfect little fucking...
Is that your end quote?
There's another one. I have this is where like all my quotes are from. So that's like one of the many good like wrap-up quotes because I couldn't decide. These are actually two separate quotes, both from an article in the Atlantic titled "The Original Nasty Woman." This was from back when the 2016 elections were still happening.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S., yes.
Okay.
As a professor of English, I teach a humanities course on female icons in pop culture, and one of the first examples my students learn about is Medusa, a gorgon from classic mythology. Medusa is widely known as a monstrous creature with snakes in her hair whose gaze turns men to stone. Through the lens of theology, film, art, and feminist literature, my students and I map how her meaning has shifted over time and across cultures. In so doing, we unravel a familiar narrative thread. In Western culture, strong women have historically been imagined as threats, requiring male conquest and control, and Medusa herself has long been the go-to figure for those seeking to demonize female authority. And the next one is, indeed, ancient mythology is rife with stories of gods who violate women. This devaluing of women has reflected in the norms and laws of a culture wherein women are traded as commodities between men, and rape was permissible by law. This woman is doing incredible work. That course, I want to take it so bad. And it wraps it all up so nicely with a neat little bow. Just how vast the representation of her can be, and just how much meaning you can get out of a story that started as 5 lines in a Greek poem. Like, so cool. I fucking love history. Yeah, she's become an icon. A metaphor for the silencing of sexual assault survivors is another one that people kind of see in that, which I totally get. But it's just so fucking cool. And she's so powerful, and that statue should be how it went. Like, she should have fucking won.
Well,
in my mind, she wins.
Yeah, I mean, the original was 5 sentences for a poem. The next person wrote something a lot different. Who says this can't be what other people will accept as their story for Medusa? Yeah.
Medusa wins, and then she goes and she turns Paradactyles into stone and saves Danae.
Yeah, why didn't he just fucking ask?
I know.
Why didn't he just be like, hey, Medusa,
hey, can you just, like, come over here and, like, turn this really shitty king to stone for me?
Like I really want to help my mom. I hope you would appreciate that.
Yeah, can you also, like, turn Atlas to stone so we make a mountain? Like, yeah, he did that too.
Thank you. And then, you can go away.
Yeah, then you can go back.
You can do your thing. Yeah. I appreciate what you did. I won't bother you no more.
Yeah. So,
if
she's super cool.
For me. I don't think you do. You're a strong, independent woman, but if you need anything.
Yeah.
If there's, like, a fruit you can't get on your island, I could, like, ship it your way. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's why I love Medusa.
Nice.
Yes. Our first historical, fictional female.
Yeah.
Which I think, for research-wise, was a completely different beast.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
I bet.
Completely.
I bet.
But it was extremely fun, and I love learning for fun. So... So, Fonda, what are you excited about right now?
Okay, so I don't know if you know about it, but there's this American animated fantasy television series produced by Disney called The Owl House. It is created by Dana Terrace, and it premiered on Disney Channel this year in January. And it's fucking great! Ooh. I love it so much. Basic plot is there's a teenage girl named Luce. She accidentally stumbles upon a portal into another world, and instead of going to this place called Reality Check Camp.
Okay.
She goes to the place called the Boiling Isles, where she befriends the rebellious witch named Ida the Owl Lady and an adorable demon warrior that looks like a mash of a bunch of really great, like, canine creature dogs.
Cool.
He's really cute. His name is King. Anyways, and she wants to learn how to be a witch, and there's a bunch of cool stuff, and it's really cute. I really like it. There's a lot of good kids shows, and this was like my filler in a way. I really needed something after Steven Universe completely wrapped up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what am I gonna watch now? Like, I need another good children's show, because a lot of them are really good.
Yeah.
And then I just saw some people being like, the Owl House is amazing, and it has a lot of great stuff to it. And I'm like, oh, what is it? So I started watching it, and I'm hooked.
Awesome.
I am hooked. I highly recommend it.
Is it on Disney Plus?
I am unsure, because I don't own Disney Plus.
That's fair. I don't have television, so...
I don't have television either. How I watch it is normally it takes a few weeks, sometimes months, but Disney will eventually have certain episodes be free to watch, but it's not all of them.
Fair.
So I'm not up to date. I've only watched up to episode 5, and I think right now they're maybe at episode 12.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's really good.
Cool.
It's
I
really
gotta
good.
get Disney Plus again so I can finish rewatching Gargoyles.
Okay. That's good show.
And then I'll watch that one.
You should. It's nice. I like it a lot.
That'll be my next kid show, because
Great.
they're nice to have as a de-stressor. You just sit down, you watch, you enjoy.
They got some wholesome goodness in it.
They got some wholesome goodness. They got some good feels.
Yeah, I like it.
You know?
Fucking hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Fuck age restrictions.
Yeah, who gives a flying F?
Who said you have to stop playing with Lego at 12?
Nobody. Just don't fucking leave them on the floor. You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate and subscribe if you haven't already. We have some people who are definitely giving us star ratings, but we'd love to have some comments and reviews. That'd be really great.
And maybe we'll read them out on the show.
Yeah. You can follow us on Tumblr and Instagram and Twitter at Wench Bench Pod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of the art for the Wench Bench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Riecken. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Werevile. Anyways, thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Loose.
Loose.
Let's record a little bit of a test to make sure I set up the mics correctly. I think Fonda has a better voice than I do.